guys, today I want to go over how to save backwards. You might not know, but Revit doesn't actually have a native way to backsave. What I mean by this is, for instance, in AutoCAD, even though you may have version 2014, 15, 16, you can go ahead and save all the way back to version 2007. Or actually even earlier. With Revit, though, even if you have 2015, you can't even save back to 2014. Now, I know that this can be very, very frustrating, but I want you to think about it in this way. Revit has certain components in it. It has different elements and pieces that have actually been created in it. So for instance, I want to zoom in and take a look at this desk here. So I know this desk is outside of the project, but I just want to use it as an example. So even though this particular component may have been made in Revit 2013, 14, 2012, whatever, it might have been recreated differently in 2016. So the problem is that if you create an object that has parameters from Revit 2016 that aren't in one of the previous versions, those previous versions have no way of interpreting those. It's kind of like if you were to travel back in time a year and walk into Best Buy and then ask for a monitor from 2015 or 2016. They wouldn't have it. It wouldn't have been invented yet. So that same principle applies to objects in Revit, and that's actually one of the big reasons why it doesn't have a backsave option. If you absolutely need to backsave, though, there is a sort of workaround. It's not the most compatible, and it actually can create some problems, but it is an option that you have at your disposal if you need it. If you go up to File, and go down to Export, you can export your file as an IFC. Now, an IFC file has information saved into it, so you're actually able to open it up or import it as an IFC. So if you go to use that file, you'll actually be able to. Now again, this is not the most well-documented or safest way of going about doing it, but if you absolutely need to backsave something, it gives you an option. And IFC actually has a bunch of different options associated with it, from exporting to saving. So if you want to save it, you can scroll down and get to IFC Options. There's other exporter options, but we're going to work with IFC right now. And if you click on IFC, you can see what's exported and what isn't. IFC will cover most of these, and you can load in and create your own type if you choose to. That being said, to import an IFC file uses the same methodology. So if you go File, Open, and select IFC Options, you can see all the different parameters that you can either load in or not load in. So if you have walls, doors, or windows that are native to a previous version, you can easily load them in. But once again, just remember that this element and this table are one of the only ways that you have of downsaving. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to go File, Export, and I am going to export what we're working on right now as an IFC. So you have a bunch of versions you can choose from. I like to go with the latest version, so hopefully it won't cause as many problems. And you have some options too. You can save current view only. You can split the walls and columns by story, meaning you separate the files out. Or you can export base quantities, which will export some quantities out along with your file. So I'll save this as backsave, but you can name it whatever you want. Alright, so now that I've saved it, I'm going to close out of the project. And now, if I go to Open, you'll notice that you can't open an IFC file through the native Open dialog. But what you can do is open an architectural template, and then you'll be able to re-import it by going to File, Open, and then Open IFC. So before I open, I'm going to select Auto Join Elements. That way it'll make all my walls, floors, doors, all connect when the file opens. Now, as you can see, some of the elements don't look quite right. The trees, for instance, are pretty fuzzy. This is because, since Revit doesn't necessarily remember the geometry and the makeup of certain things, so it'll load them in with extra lines. So when we click on it, it says generic model, but when we go into 3D view, you can see a little bit more that it's a tree. The geometry isn't native. So IFC is one of the only ways that you can backsave, but as you can see, it has repercussions. If you have to do an IFC, I'd recommend that you save it as a linked model, like if you have to send it to a client. So, to give you an example of the difference between the native tree and the imported one, I'm going to go in and insert just a basic tree native to this version of Revit. You can see right away the difference in geometry, how dissected these elements get. And this is going to be true of most IFC imported elements, especially components. So the stairs came in looking pretty normal, but you don't have the same edit capacities and the same commands that you do with a native stair. All you have there is edit in place. So one of the big downfalls of Revit that I find, and I'm sure that Autodesk is working on this, is how to import elements and have them convert into a more native format when you bring them into your version of Revit. That said, everyone who is working on a given project, that would be engineers, architects, designers, everybody, should all be working on the same version of Revit. So if your consultant or engineer upgrades, you might want to talk to them about it, because that may not be the best version to upgrade to. So it's worth emphasizing here that you can always upgrade from an older version of Revit, but you can't downsave back from a newer version. Alright, that's it for this time. See you in the next lesson.